You make one little video about some LFP batteries and suddenly everyone wants to be your friend and send you review samples. So this video is sponsored by Lanpwr. They have sent me this battery and I have a referral link in the description if you want to buy one. So let's just not beat around the bush. I'm actually cheating you right now because I've already taken this thing apart so we can have a look inside. So inside we have a BMS of what brand is that? I have no idea. Model number DP04S007-S version 1.8. It's seems to be glued down to an epoxy sheet on top of 4 cells which are sitting on the side. You can just barely make a bus bar right there, and they're shoved into the case with expanding foam on the sides. That's going to make these cells very sturdily mounted. It's certainly better than the batteries which just have the foamy bits. So that's a nice and stable design.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
Alright, so I've cut all the foam out along the sides. So I think all we need now is some application of calibrated socks and sandals, because it does seem to be sort of firmly stuck on the bottom. But I think if we... Oh yeah. Yep, that went. That went. Yep, it's coming out. It's coming out. So there are the guts of a Lanpwr 100 Ah battery. And they do have foam on the underside, which is good, I think. That's going to add some protection. Although there's not a lot, because you can see the green straps that they're strapping the battery together with. We do have QR codes on the cells though. Let's see what we got. There we go. I've excavated one side of the battery and we can definitely confirm there are no insulators between the cells. The plot thickens because I haven't been able to separate these cells. I have removed the BMS now. It's just dangling on the side. Cut the straps again, so these should be completely free to move other than the bus bars, but they are not. So out comes the feeler gauge, and we actually have material between the cells. This is a 0.05mm blade, which can clearly go in, and you can see there's material in there. So yeah, we actually have insulators between the cells. That is very good. I was not expecting that. Now, it is not epoxy sheets. It's clearly something kind of soft. But you know what? I'm actually pretty happy with that. Because as long as you're not shrink wrap to shrink wrap in the middle of the cells, as long as there's something there, that dramatically reduces the risk. Because this 0.05mm gap is enough to prevent any tiny metal particles from the factory to pierce the shrink wrap. We even on a couple of places can get a 0.1mm in. You can see the 0.1 going in. No drama. I'm actually happy to use this battery. From an electrical standpoint between the cells, these are not going to easily connect to each other. Some mitigation between the cells, that's all I ask for. Yeah, I'm happy. That is really good to see. Why? Well, if we flip this guy over, I have poked out a little bit of this foil here. The case of these LFP cells is actually sort of tied to one terminal. It depends on the manufacturer and the cell. It may be more or less connected. So that means if we take a multimeter and probe the metal case of these two cells, we actually have cell voltage there, and we don't know the resistance between the case and whichever terminal it's tied to. So that really only leaves us with the quality of the BMS left to check. So let's take this apart, see what kinds of semiconductors we have at play. Let's lift the lid on this guy. There we go. So we have, ooh, those looks like unusually nice transistors. So we have sill pads against the plastic for cooling, nothing unusual there. I really like this. It's actually got a temp sensor right at the transistors. It wouldn't, oh no, actually, this sill pad presses this temp sensor down there. That's really good. I do like to see that. Alright, I've gone through the BMS a bit and had a look, and generally I really like what I see. So we have the main control chip, which is this guy. This guy measures the cell voltages and deals with balancing. It's a DVC 1006. It's some Chinese chip, but it is actually a dedicated BMS chip. It's going to be controlled by this generic processor over here, but the chip basically does all the protection functionality itself, as long as the processor has programmed it correctly. So that's really good. The switch FETs, they are PES025N08Rs. There are 6 in parallel and 2 in series, as there has to be. They're rated 2.2 milliohms each, which gives us a 0.73 milliohm total on resistance for this BMS while it's operating. That gives us a 7.5 watt dissipation at 100 amps, which is fairly high. This is at 100 amps continuous. This is going to produce quite a bit of heat. So 100 amps continuous is probably not what you want to do. These FETs do have a very high surge rating of 1200 amps, so I'm not too concerned with like hooking up capacitive loads or switching stuff on. These are pretty hardy FETs, and they do actually have a brand. They're not generic. So I really like the power stage here. Cell balancing is done with these resistors here and this row of transistors. We have 15.5 ohms per cell passive balancing, which is good. That is generally what you want from a safety standpoint. So 200 milliamps balancing, it's completely fine. It's perfectly adequate. So thankfully the BMS in this battery is a JBD, which works with the Overkill Solar app, which enables you to both read and edit the parameters of the battery. And that's really important because sadly they have not configured this battery very well at all. Most importantly, the protections are not good. We have a charge over temp of 65 degrees, which is too high, a charge under temp of -10 degrees, which is too low, and a discharge over temp of 75 degrees, which is just insanely high. These temperatures should be in the 50-ish degree range, in my opinion, and the charge under temp should be closer to 0 degrees. So that is not good to see, but thankfully you can change the parameters. But Lanpwr, I urge you, provide some more sensible defaults. This is not good. The same goes for the cell under and over voltage thresholds. The over voltage threshold is 3.75 volts, which is too high for me. I would set that to 3.65. And the cell under voltage threshold is also fairly low at 2.3 volts, resetting at 2.4. I would set that to 2.5 and 2.6 volts. But thankfully you can edit this, so it's just a matter of configuring it properly, but really these are not good defaults. With that said, I do have an understanding for why they have selected the voltage settings they have. 3.75 volts is not in the immediate fire, it's just in the accelerated cell degradation range, and they do that because people are going to hook this up to weird charges and cars and stuff, which are very likely to cause very high cell voltages, especially if the battery is brand new and fairly unbalanced. So I do have an understanding for that. It will save everyone involved a bunch of trouble, but personally I don't want to run a battery like that. I wasn't initially going to do a capacity test because I knew the battery was going to perform about as you'd expect, but I gave it a run on Big Bertha at 40 amps anyway, and we got exactly what you would expect, 104.24 amp hours with a very nice and flat discharge curve. Absolutely nothing noteworthy at all. It does what it says on the tin. 100 amp hours is Good, you expect no more, you tolerate a little bit less, so capacity is of course fine. Now something Lanpwr really deserves a lot of credit for is the manual. This thing is a work of beauty. It has all the technical information you would need, including instructions for inexperienced users. It has the cell dimensions, it has really good mechanical specs, it has really thorough electrical specs, including sort of a hint that you kind of shouldn't run this at more than 20 amps if you want it to perform well. But you have really detailed specs. I didn't notice it the first time I read it, but we actually have a specification for the cell they have used and a part number for the BMS. Beautiful. You get to know what you have. This is absolutely great. And toward the end of the manual you have a good testing info how to measure the battery, how to wire it up in different configurations, and they go into detail. So yeah, Lanpwr, huge 2 thumbs up for the manual. Excellent work. Good English too. I'm super stoked about that. Absolutely deserving of praise. So what's the verdict for the Lanpwr 100 amp hour LFP battery? Well, I'm gonna give it acceptable. This is not a battery that I'm afraid to use in its original configuration, and that is pretty high praise coming from me. So the good and the bad, it's got sturdy foam mounting. The expanding foam solution I am a fan of. It is not serviceable, but it will keep the battery really rigidly and sort of impact resistantly secured. It's just a good way of doing things. There's good space in the box, nothing is crammed up against the edges. If you impact this even really hard, you're not going to be like instantly piercing your cells. It uses high quality BMS and cells. I was particularly impressed with the BMS. It was of good build quality with a decent amount of at least branded semiconductors. It's not just no-name, untraceable junk. I like that, and the cells, of course, genuine Cornex. Nothing wrong there. Assembly quality, good. Wires were secured. I'm happy with it. Nothing really sticking out as poor there. The internal wiring is acceptable. It uses 2x8 gauge wires for the positive and negative terminals. It's ever so slightly on the thin side for 100 amps continuous, but 100 amps continuous into a battery of this size, 100 amps rated, does not mean that you can just pull 100 amps out of it. You should derate it quite a bit. That's just the way these things go. And the cells are not directly touching, which is really important. I was fully expecting these cells to be crammed right up against each other with nothing but the shrink wrap to separate them. That is not the case. There is something between the cells, and that really is the key thing that makes me put this battery in acceptable rather than unacceptable. Because that is such a common issue you see, and cell-to-cell shorts is a fiery bad time. But this battery excels. It has something between the cells. The bad, no overpressure relief on the box. If a cell vents, pressure is going to build up until something pops. You want to see some kind of breather, some kind of overpressure relief of some kind. That also means that it's impossible to write expanding gases anywhere. If this goes, it's going to go where it sits, which is not ideal. There are no epoxy sheets between the cells. I would like to see epoxy sheets, because even though we have material between the cells, it seems to be some sort of soft adhesive type thing. The BMS limits are too extreme, 3.75 volts, it's not okay. I have to redact a point, because 3.75 volts OVP, it is too high, it is out of spec for the cells. Not okay. There's no compression, so that will limit the cycle life of the cells. And the BMS is mounted basically on the cells. It will heat the cells up. At very high current you do get, I would say, about 10 watts of power dissipation in the BMS, which will have to go somewhere. It will mostly sink into the cells, and some will dissipate over the top of the case, but it really has nowhere to go, so most of it will go to heating one side of the cells. But yeah, acceptable. Overall, I'm not afraid of this battery. That's about as good of a recommendation as you're gonna get out of me for one of these, because I don't like the black box batteries. I'm not a fan. But this thing, as far as they go, I don't mind it. You could certainly do a lot worse.